Welcome to Oklahoma Gardening. Today we start the show by looking at the blank slate of a landscape that new homeowners often face. Shelley Mitchell teaches us about sun printing. David Hillock shares an Oklahoma-proven winner. I have a hibiscus that may look a little different than you expect. And our garden ambassadors are sharing some of the containers they designed this season. Underwriting assistance for our program is provided by the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry, helping to keep Oklahoma green and growing. Oklahoma Gardening is also a proud partner with Shape Your Future, a program of the Tobacco Settlement Endowment Trust. Shape Your Future provides resources for Oklahomans to make the healthy choice the easy choice.
I love sharing with you guys the cool things that plants can do. We're back here at the student farm. I want to share with you a tropical plant that you might find in some Oklahoma landscapes. It's important to know which plants we are dealing with so that we can continue to maintain them successfully for years to come. Over this season, we've been following the construction and landscape installation around the new Ag Hall. And you might be thinking, what does that have to do with me as a homeowner? Well, today we are talking a little bit about that specifically, and joining me is Dr. Moss. Dr. Moss, we are out here where there's a new homeowners association being built. Let's do a little bit of a site assessment of this location. What do you think?
I think it's wonderful. It's the most exciting time of one's life. You know, you get a new house,
right?
You're designing the kitchen, what tile are you going to have, and probably the last thing you think about is my landscape or my soil or what that's going to be like, right?
Right.
And I would say even for the builder, sometimes it's the last thing. It's the last thing on their mind too, because the money's in the house,
right?
And the landscape is very important, but not as important as the house. And so when they come into a site like this, you know they're going to move the topsoil away, right? Well, what do plants like to grow in?
Topsoil.
Topsoil.
Exactly.
So that gets all kind of scraped away because topsoil does not make for a good foundation.
And while we have soil on the top right now, it's not likely the topsoil, right?
That's right. It's you can see some piles around here where they try to pile it up, they try to save it, and they'll bring some in at kind of at the end of the process, but really it's all being scraped away. And so all that good stuff for your plants kind of gets moved away. And you know, it rains during construction, and then there's slopes and there's runoff and erosion and all these things happen, right? And so, yeah, you get this beautiful home, you get this beautiful landscape, and then like the next year you're calling the county extension office say, why are my shrubs dying, or why are my trees not making it?
And that's what we've been having this conversation behind the scenes a lot with county educators and stuff. And so we wanted to sort of bring it to the forefront with homeowners about some of these issues and how they can look at their landscape a little bit differently.
That's exactly right. And of course, what are we going to say? We're extension people. You got to start with a soil
test, right?
You got to start with a soil test. But it's so important, right?
Yes.
Because, you know, out here at this site, we did a few soil tests just to see what it was like. And wouldn't you know, like the organic matter is less than 1%. Mm-hmm. Well, what would we like that organic matter to be? We'd like it to be high, right? Certainly more than 0.5% or more than 1%, right? So, you know, what can we do to, and if we were vegetable farmers or something, right? Maybe we would come and cover crop it and bring in some green manure and build up that organic matter.
Which might be a little stinky in a new addition,
That's right?
Yeah.
So we really can't do that in the landscape in a homeowner association setting. So what can we do? What are some things we can do? What should we look out for? Well, let's pay attention to see what our organic matter is. Our soil pH. Mm-hmm. Out here, it's around 8. Well, for most plants, that's going to be okay. But there's some plants, as you get to 8, 8.1, 8.2, 8.5, you're going to start having some trouble, and maybe have trouble like with some micronutrients like iron, and some plants can't take it up because of that high pH.
And one thing I always mention when you're first doing a soil test is that's just a point on a line to be made. So you really don't know whether that 8 is going up or is it going down, and how quickly it might be changing.
Yeah, so important to monitor that over time, and maybe taking that soil test once a year until you get that landscape established and get those problems figured out. Absolutely.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So let's talk a little bit about what we're seeing here. There are some weeds which will result in a weed seed bank to
Plenty
have
of
to
weeds
deal
out
with
here.
later.
Yeah.
But a lot of these tend to be weeds that you find in disturbed and kind of low nutrition environments as well.
Exactly right. And so, again, taking the soil test out here, guess what? We're low on nutrients. And so it is a low nitrogen environment out here. And even, we don't see this a lot. Usually phosphorus in our soils is pretty okay. But even out here, the phosphorus is deficient. And in some of the samples out here, the potassium was deficient as well. So you don't see that a lot. Low organic matter, low nitrogen, low phosphorus, low potassium, kind of a higher pH. That spells trouble.
Right, right. And one of the things that we haven't talked about is the change in topography. And so like you can see how backyards are going to flow into other backyards
That's
when
right.
we do have a rainfall. And then the compaction issue.
That's exactly right. So another thing we can do with that soil test is do a soil texture analysis. We can also look at soil infiltration rates, how fast the water can flow through based on that soil texture. All important, right? And if we have a slope, what are we going to do, or what do we want that builder to do, maybe to put in some French drains or whatever might be needed before those problems arise, before that neighbor calls you and says, hey, your yard's flooding my house, right?
And maybe that's the ideal location for a rain garden. I know those are getting popular, especially to help slow the flow of water.
Absolutely, that's a wonderful solution. And even if you're in an HOA that's more progressive, doing that at a neighborhood scale, even better. But at least if you can do it at a yard scale, very, very effective and very efficient.
And I think, a lot of neighborhoods have those beautiful ponds, that they put walking trails around, they put a fountain in them. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of times people might think that that is for enjoyment, which it is. It
Yes.
adds to that. But it's really also to kind of hold that water as well.
Yeah, it really helps with flood control in your neighborhood. It has a place for that water to go when it runs off the sidewalks and the streets and maybe goes to that collection area. And having some nice plants there with your HOA is a good thing as well, yeah.
All right, well, this is just a reminder for homeowners who maybe are in a new housing addition and struggling with that landscape, because I know it tends to be just a standard landscape a lot of times that will come in, but they might have issues with it. County extension offices are always there to help, and soil testing is a great first step.
Remember, this is what it looked like before your house was there.
Probably 3 months before you
That's
moved
right.
in, right?
That's exactly right.
Thank you, Dr. Moss, for joining me today.
You bet.
For more information, check out this fact sheet.
Hi, I'm Kathy Adkins. I'm an ambassador here at the Botanic Garden at Oklahoma State University, and with my partner Linda, we put together a pot for the first ambassador pot competition, and our theme is something borrowed, something blue. And that's basically because we were using plants from our own gardens that we dug and brought and put into these pots. We worked with kind of the normal thriller, spiller, filler kind of theme, and so for us, we have a Brazilian veronica that has long, airy stems. That was our first thriller of the plant. And then over the season, a late arriver is the hummingbird shrub with the orange flowers that I dug from my garden. And we weren't even sure if it was going to make it, but it came on eventually. And it's a plant that blooms in June, so the colors have changed as we've gone along. There are a lot of different fillers in the plant. There's veronica. Back in here, there's some pretty angelonia. There's some Victoria sage. This plant here is Brazilian button, which is a beautiful blue flower. And when we planted it, it was a little teeny tiny seedling in the back. And I have to get my clippers out and trim it every time I come out to visit because it's growing so crazy all the way around the back. It makes it really pretty from the far backside of the garden too. There's some spillers that are like a bright blue spilling flower, some lime green spilling ground cover type plants. So that's pretty much our container this year.
Okay, today I'm going to show you a neat craft you can do on hot, sunny days in Oklahoma. So we're going to do something called sun printing. It's where you can use acrylic paint and leaves to make really cool little projects. So here's an example of one that's just leaves. Another thing you can do is use things like buttons so you get really clear edges, because when you use leaves, you don't necessarily always get clear edges. So that's just kind of fun. This is one we did, and we didn't like how it turned out, so we did another one on top of it. So even if you mess up, you can do it again. And then here's just some different colors we've used, and different sizes. So we just do these for fun and to like hang on the wall. If you wanted to put them on clothes, you could run it through the dryer when you're finished so it doesn't fade so fast afterwards. All right, so how we do this is we take a piece of 100% cotton. I use muslin. It has to be like no sizing or anything, just regular old 100% cotton muslin. And you put it on a surface that you can move, because we're going to move this outside when we're done. So what you do is you get it wet, and you can use any kind of sprayer. You don't want to like dunk it in water and then spread it out, because you'll have lots of wrinkles. So the best thing to do is get it wet with some kind of sprayer. This is only used for water. And get it wet all the way to the edge. Then you want to spread it out, kind of get those folds out. So now you have a wet piece of fabric. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to paint this. Now, you can use acrylic paint and dilute it 2 to 1 and get perfect paint, because you want it to be thick enough that the color's really rich, but you don't want it to be thin enough that it doesn't show any color. So it's kind of a fine mix, but 2 to 1 acrylic is pretty good. So this one, you can tell, doesn't stick around much. It's not very viscous. This paint, on the other hand, has dried out a little bit, and so it leaves some on the edge when you tilt it, so it's a little too viscous. So if we're going to use this, we need to add water. All right, so I'm going to use 2 colors for this. This one's kind of viscous, so I'm going to add some water. Not much. You can always add more. You can't always take out. All right, that's pretty good. All right, so foam brushes or very wide brushes are good for getting it covered in paint, because you want it covered corner to corner. So you just take it and you just spread it on. And you can make designs in it. Just realize that whatever part you don't paint isn't going to show, because it needs to have color on it. All the way to the edge. So you want it to be dark like this. Notice it's not very thin, so you get a lot of pigment. All right, then I'm going to try a different color. I almost thinned it out a little too much here. Okay, so the next thing you do, we're going to put different leaves on here. You can also put, like I showed you, buttons or anything. So what I did is I went outside and I collected some leaves, and I'm going to use these to make sun prints. Now, sometimes you want it to be flat on the paper, because if it's not flat, then you're not going to see it. Only the part that actually touches the fabric is what you're going to see. So it needs to be as flat as possible. So I got these a couple hours ago, so they'd kind of be wilty when I did this. And I just went out and also just got some weeds. So I used like Johnson grass, I got some spurge, I got some Bermuda. So some of these I took apart because they were just, otherwise it would just be a big blob. So I'm going to take these, and the wilted ones are really easy to use because they lay perfectly flat. All right. I cut off some of the Johnson grass seeds because, again, if it's not right up against the fabric, you're not going to see anything. This is cool, but it's going to just be a big blob if I don't separate it. So I'm going to separate those. Get that as flat as I can. Okay, so we're going to make sure that everything's as tapped down as possible. This is why turning things over and having somewhat wilted leaves helps, because you want to again, only what touches it is going to be what shows up. So now we're going to take this outside and we're going to let the sun do its job with the UV and the heat, and we're going to see what this turns into. Okay, so it's been almost an hour and the fabric is dry, and I tried peeling up a leaf and I could see that it had worked. So since it's dry, it's not going to get any more developed. So now I can just pull the leaves off. And some of them didn't work as well because they were just little. All right, let's see what we got. We got smooth edges. We got crazy wild edges. You can see a little bit of the seed heads that I put down. So it just depends on what you put down as to what you get. And you get all kinds of wacky things sometimes, but as long as you're happy with it, that's all that matters.
Hi, I'm Brenda Smith. I'm an ambassador at the Botanical Garden. My demonstration pot is about plants that repel mosquitoes. Living in mosquitoes, it is a big problem in Oklahoma. So I wanted to find as many plants and herbs that would repel mosquitoes. So I chose a lemongrass, lemon plectranthus, lemon balm, thyme, fern leaf, lavender, and in the back I have a scented leaf geranium. So that's why I chose my plants.
Our Oklahoma Proven Annual for this year is a wonderful zinnia, and this is one of my favorites. So this is zinnia, red-yellow bicolor. It's a hybrid between zinnia angustifolia and zinnia elegans, and it's in the Profusion series, so it's a really tough variety. It has beautiful flowers on it all year long. They start out with this nice, beautiful, bright red center with the yellow outer portions of the petals, and then as the flowers mature, as we go through the season, they start turning an apricot color, then a salmon color, and finally a dusty rose color. So eventually you'll end up with all three colors on the same plant as the plant continues to produce new flowers that are bright red and yellow. So this plant gets about 10 to 14 inches high and wide. And you can see it's very nice and compact, very uniform. It's very quite drought tolerant once it gets established. Great for pollinators. We've got lots of bees visiting in them this morning. So this is also an All-America selection winner. Received the gold medal here as well as in trials in Europe. So this is an awesome little annual, very nice, neat and compact, has beautiful foliage and colors of flowers throughout the growing season.
This is our first year for these great metal containers, so we all got to choose plants. Most of my plants came from the Botanic Garden greenhouse here. So I looked in a magazine I had at home and I saw these that I really liked. I have Thriller, a Spiller, and a Filler. So I started with the elephant ear from the garden here, the Main Street Beale Street Coleus from our greenhouse, and the sweet potato vine from our greenhouse. Then I filled in with this no-name succulent from my home. So we really enjoyed doing these containers. I think it's a real showcase for people to try some different plants that they might not have done in their flower bed or at home. So you can walk through here, you can see a multitude of choices. And I just liked the colors, the red, the dark, and these I thought were going to be a little more black, but they're just fine. So we enjoyed doing this. It was our garden manager's great idea. So we hope you enjoy trying different containers at your home.
When somebody mentions hibiscus, you're probably thinking of the tropical flowers or the large hardy hibiscus with their amazing flowers. But today I want to show you another hibiscus. This is called Cranberry Hibiscus, or red-leaved hibiscus. Now you can see how it got its name, obviously, but this hibiscus is known for this foliage, not necessarily for the flowers. In fact, the flowers you really probably won't even get flowers because they come on so late in the season. Really grow it for the foliage, but you can see it gives you quite a show in the landscape here. So this is an annual. It's only hardy to zones 9 through 11. So you're going to grow it as an annual here in Oklahoma. And we bought these as 4-inch pots with about a 1 to 2 foot stem on it. Now when we planted these in the ground, you can see as soon as the heat cranks up, these take off and they will grow anywhere from about a 3 to a 6 foot tall shrub. So we've got quite a lot of foliage and vegetation here for an annual that's going to make a really nice display. Now, as I mentioned, this cranberry hibiscus is really grown for this foliage. Not only does it give you this dark maroon color backdrop here, but it also has kind of a neat texture that it provides into the landscape with this sort of very deeply lobed palmate leaf that is highly serrated and almost kind of wavy on the edges. So it provides a lot of texture. Now, because it is such a dark maroon shrub that you're going to put in the landscape, putting it next to something that's chartreuse or like our yellow marigolds are really going to create a contrast and a nice pop in your garden. Another color that you might consider is planting some silver next to it. So down the way we have some artemisia planted in front of it, and again it creates a nice contrast in your garden. Make sure you put this in the backside of your landscape because, like I said, it does get tall. Now it wants full sun and moderate moisture, and because it grows so fast in the summertime, it can be a little bit brittle. So you might be cautious of that. So if you get a smaller one that's pretty leggy, what you're going to want to do is kind of pinch it back a little bit, about a third of the way. You can stake it if you think you're really going to get extreme winds. But if it does break on you a little bit, don't worry. Usually it'll just cause it to grow out even more. But by pinching it early, you're going to create a denser shrub that's going to be a little bit sturdier for you in our Oklahoma landscape. Again, this is Cranberry Hibiscus, and a nice colorful plant to add into your landscape. There are a lot of great horticulture activities this time of year. Be sure and consider some of these events in the weeks ahead.
Join us next week on Oklahoma Gardening as we hit the road for an adventure you won't want to miss.
And one thing I always like to point out is when you first take a soil sample, that's just a dot on a line. We got a helicopter.
To find out more information about show topics as well as recipes, videos, articles, fact sheets, and other resources, including a directory of local extension offices, be sure to visit our website at oklahomagardening.okstate.edu. Join in on Facebook and Instagram. You can find this entire show and other recent shows as well as individual segments on our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. Tune in to our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel to watch segments from previous hosts. Oklahoma Gardening is produced by the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service as part of the Division of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources at Oklahoma State University. The Botanic Garden at OSU is home to our studio gardens, and we encourage you to come visit this beautiful Stillwater gem. We would like to thank our generous underwriters, the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry, and Shape Your Future, a program of the Tobacco Settlement Endowment Trust. Additional support is also provided by Greenleaf Nursery and the Garden Debut Plants, the Oklahoma Horticulture Society, the Tulsa Garden Club, and the Tulsa Garden Center.